Fasten your seatbelts. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
F?
What you're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me, and my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making.
It is the 30-something movie podcast, almost at the we're at the tail end of the first month of 1992. We're at the tail end of January already.
Jeez.
It's kind of crazy, friends.
That flew by.
It's a little crazy. So we are at the tail end of our first month of the year, which is our crime and punishment month. So we have had most of our movies, like all of our movies this time around, have dealt with crime or punishment in some way. We had our Patreon this month was To Kill a Mockingbird. We had Lethal Weapon 3 to start off the year. We had Hoffa last week. This week is My Cousin Vinny. Next week is Passenger 57. So we've got all kinds of good stuff kicking off the year here for us in 1992. Speaking of good stuff, I've got a whole bunch of people here with me that you have not heard from yet. You did hear Pat there for a second. Pat, how's it going?
It's going great, John. Hi, everybody. How you guys doing?
Just to let everybody know, if at some point multiple times in this episode you hear what sounds like something melting into a small puddle, it's because Pat is probably looking up entries for Marisa Tomei on IMDb. just to be clear.
Yes.
We've already reached that point, haven't we?
Yeah.
Pat, who are we going to talk a lot about this episode?
We're going to be talking a lot about Marisa Tomei in this episode. Dreamweaver.
I believe you can get me through the night.
I created it, but it was by request from, I think it was Jason and Dee from the Surely You Can't Be Serious.
Yeah.
After they heard you sing Dreamweaver, they're like, you got to use that more often.
That has to become a soundbite.
Yeah. So it is. It is now. It's up there. It's joining the ranks of the Pat rejected your question and being Pat-splained. So
yeah, there it is, man. We're covering every angle, every possible angle.
And don't worry, if need be, if Dennis gets disgusted during this episode, I do have a soundbite of him leaving the Howard the Duck episode.
Okay.
So
that is outstanding.
So I can pull that up and use it anytime.
Outstanding.
Awesome.
I think it's mostly just him saying, I'm going to be sick. I'm about to vomit. And then you just hear his chair scrape against the floor. And then, yeah.
And he's out.
Yeah. Speaking of Dennis, how's it going?
Good. Therapy after that episode.
I can imagine. Don't worry. We're not doing Howard the Duck this time, so you're okay.
I'm kind of bummed I missed that episode. To see that in person would have been...
Well, hey, in episode 400, we're redoing our first ones. You know, at some point we can go back and start to redo some of the other ones. We can pause. We could do that for the Patreon feed. We could call it 30 podcast replays, and we can re-record. You know, have your thoughts changed 5 or 6 years later?
Wow, the amount of research involved in that would be a challenge for most of us, myself included.
Bo, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good.
Fine. I think I'm regretting bringing up past episodes.
That's mostly just that one.
Yep, just that one.
Anything else is good.
When the episode title is Vomit Breath, then you kind of know.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. There's some anger issues with that one.
And they tormented me after that. There was many pictures sent to me.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Well, you kind of telegraphed your weakness, right? When you got up and left, it was like, oh man, Dennis is really mad.
Oh, fair game.
Well, I think you guys got it during the actual episode. I think I also got a picture of the bathtub.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you were in your cool down room and we were texting you pictures.
Yep.
Did I change your desktop background on your computer?
I think you did.
I think I did. Yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a lot of torture. So it's like,
it was a lot of
sorry for the spinning reaction boat, but it's like, it's post-traumatic stress here.
Yeah. Kids, we don't condone.
I just get picked on for wax on, wax off. I can tell.
Man,
that's nothing.
That's true. That was my favorite. That was my absolute favorite part of that one Keanu Reeves movie. The wax on, wax off. Yeah.
That was after he had the blue pill, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different blue pill, but anyway. My cousin Vinny.
Yeah. 2 years.
Yeah.
We gotta talk about this one, guys, because my biological clock is ticking like this. So we gotta get going here. Yes.
It's ticking like Pat pounding on a table.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, that's a throwback to old episodes too. So, very quick spoiler alert: we spoil the movies we talk about, so just be warned. If we start to talk about another movie in relation to this one, everything's pretty much fair game. So this is your only warning there. Very, very quickly too, we are members of the Scene Stealers Podcast Network. If you want to go check them out, they've got a bunch of different celebrities that could be booked for a Comic-Con or event. Go to scenestealersglobal.com. Then you can visit our website, 30podcast.com, where you can leave a rating, leave a voicemail, become a co-executive producer via Patreon, and get access to all the different bonus episodes that we have put out over the last year and a half or so over there. So any amount of support there gets you the access to those episodes. So go check those out. 30podcast.com is our website. I don't think we have anything else necessarily going on right now. Very, very quickly, I am going to say I am super excited and ready for the Batman movie that is coming out in March. And I just realized that it's almost the end of January, which means February, the shortest month, and then at the beginning of March, I think, is when the Batman comes out. So that's like barely a month away. So
That's very exciting.
I'm kind of excited for that.
Very exciting. Yeah. Yeah.
So. All right. Anything else? Any other news that's been out lately that anybody's just itching to talk about? Or
not from Pat.
No, not from Pat. Okay. All right. Well, then let's get into My Cousin Vinny. My Cousin Vinny came out on the 13th of March, 1992, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour, 59 minutes. It was directed by Jonathan Lynn, who also directed Clue, Sergeant Bilko, The Whole Nine Yards. Producers were Dale Launer and Paul Schiff. Launer did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and Love Potion No. 9. Schiff did Young Guns and Made in Manhattan. Writer for this one was Dale Launer, who did Ruthless People and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Cinematography was done by Peter Deming, who did The Cabin in the Woods and Mulholland Drive. Editors were Tony Lombardo and Stephen E. Rivkin. Lombardo did Uncle Buck and Popeye. Rivkin did Pirates of the Caribbean movies and Avatar. Music was done by Randy Edelman, who did Kindergarten Cop, Gettysburg, and The Last of the Mohicans. Budget on this one was $11 million. Box office was $64.1 million. Flickmetrics gives it a 72%, and CinemaScore gives it an A-. For this one, we have Joe Pesci playing Vincent LaGuardia Gambini, who was also in Raging Bull, The Irishman, and Goodfellas. Ralph Macchio played Bill Gambini. He was in The Karate Kid, The Outsiders, and Cobra Kai. Marisa Tomei was Mona Lisa Vito. Okay, I'll give you a second. Okay, there we go. All right.
I'm okay. I'm good.
Okay, good. Was Mona Lisa Vito, and she was in What Women Want, The Wrestler, and the Spider-Man movies. Mitchell Whitfield played Stan Rothenstein. He was in Sergeant Bilko and Friends. Fred Gwynne, who died in 1993, played Judge Chamberlain Holler. He was in The Munsters and Pet Sematary. Lane Smith, who died in 2005, played Jim Trotter III. He was in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, and Red Dawn. Austin Pendleton played John Gibbons. He was in The Muppet Movie and Short Circuit. Bruce McGill played Sheriff Farley. He was in National Lampoon's Animal House and Runaway Jury. New York lawyer Vinny has never won a case. When his teenage cousin Bill and his friend Stan are accused of murder in a backwater Alabama town, it's up to the nervous Vinny to save him from jail, even though he's only ever tried personal injury cases before, and none of those successfully.
A funny thing happened to William and Stanley on their way to college.
At what point did you shoot the clerk?
They got framed for murder.
Whoa! Wait a minute!
Now, two kids from New York are in deep trouble.
It's time to make your phone calls.
The clan's here. They're inbred. They sleep with their sisters.
In the deep south.
Some of them do.
And only one man can save them.
We need to call an attorney, a great attorney.
He's not your typical hero.
We got an attorney in the family. Great, who?
He's
my cousin Vinny. You stick out like a sore thumb around here.
Oh, yeah, you blend.
You graduated from law school 6 years ago. What have you been doing since? Studying for the bar. That's a lot of studying. What's this over here?
You never heard of grits?
Sure. I just actually never seen a grit before.
It's his first case.
Now, didn't I tell you dress appropriately?
You were serious about that?
The way you handled that judge, oh, you're a smooth talker, you are.
It's their last chance.
The two Utes.
Did you say Utes?
Yeah, two Utes.
What is a Ute?
But with Vinny's style,
I wore this ridiculous thing for you.
And Vinny's girlfriend.
We agreed to get married as soon as you won your first case. My biological clock is ticking like this, and the way this case is going, I ain't never getting married.
They're dead meat.
May I have permission to treat Ms. Vito as a hostile witness?
You think I'm hostile? Now wait till you see me tonight.
Joe Pesci is my cousin Vinny.
You two know each other?
Yeah, she's my fiancée.
Well, that would certainly explain the hostility.
All right. I'm assuming we've all seen this before, but if not, go ahead and chime in with that too. How does this movie make you feel, and do you remember the first time you saw it?
It makes Pat feel tingly.
Yeah. I love this movie. I remember my parents talking about it. I remember because they saw it first. I'm trying to think. I wasn't old enough to go see it in the theaters or any of that kind of stuff by myself. But wait a minute, this is 92 now, so that's another year. I saw it pretty quick after it came out. Like it was still pretty fresh, in rental kind of within a year or so of it coming out. I remember my folks talking about it, laughing about it, and they didn't spoil things, but I mean, I kind of knew of the humor, and they had kind of described it to me and everything. So I saw it back there, probably rental, maybe we rented it as a family, not with my younger brother or sister, but yeah. So and how does it make me feel? I love it. Like I watched it this time and I'm like, man, this has got to be a regular watch. I love this movie. And I found it funny. The way the story was, I don't want to say anything disparaging. It was just a fun story. It was just a fun movie. I really, really enjoyed the movie. I like the actors they put in it. I thought we'll get more into all that. So yeah, it made me feel, with one exception, I just love the movie. It's great.
Oh, now I'm curious to know what the one exception is, but we'll talk about that.
I don't recall seeing it at the theater, but it was definitely probably one of those new release video rentals my dad got, because I think at that time, right around 20s, my dad was going to the video store. He's like number one customer at Berwyn Home Video, renting like 5 movies a day, watching 3 of them, fast forwarding through the other ones, and then returning them. Anyway, this would have been one of those that was probably quick on the anything comedy, and so this would have been a quick release. So we would have seen that when I say quick release, we would have got seen it pretty quick once it was released on video cassette. Yeah, I love this movie and just saw it today with my daughter. So I'll give you guys their feedback quickly, just quick summary a little bit later. Let's see, what else was the question? Just how to make you feel when we saw it. Yeah, so 20 years old. I was going to show it to my kids earlier. I remember revisiting this one and kind of being eager to do it. However, I forgot how, that it was rated R and F-bombs. For some reason, it felt like a PG in my memory. And then when I saw it, I was like, there's a lot of, there's a decent number of F-bombs. So my kids were like 7 and 8, 9, 10, and whatever. I wasn't showing them that. So
yeah, they might be a little young for that, but I'm telling you,
10, 11, 12, 13 too. I don't even know when I remember revisiting, I should get that one from the library. And I go, man, it's rated R. And then when I was like, wow, does have a lot of language in it, but nothing. I mean, it's just mainly F. You're looking at mainly your F-bombs, but at the time we were not.
And honestly, the way Marisa Tomei swears, I mean, I could listen to that all day. It's like poetry. I mean, it's like music. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm stepping all over your intro. I'm back on mute.
So no, that's it. So good movie, loved it.
Yeah, I think like these guys, I don't think I saw it in the theater. It was either a movie rental when it was on the new release shelf, or possibly even an HBO release at that point in time. But, you know, it would have been a Joe Pesci comedy would have been high on the list. We'd already seen plenty of movies with the F-bombs by then, so that wasn't a problem for my little brother. He saw them earlier than he probably should have, but hey, life goes on, right? Still love this movie. It amuses to this day, and you know, it's one of the few movies, even though there's a lot of F-bombs in it, like sometimes you see a movie and when it's the TV edit, you just roll your eyes because the language just doesn't make sense. I've seen the TV edit of this one where they take out all the F-bombs, and it really doesn't lose much. There's a couple of jokes that don't land, but it performs better on TV than some other rated R movies do, which is a testament to the writing and all that all the other stuff we're about to talk about. But yeah, good movie, good time.
Yeah, for me, I could probably tell you exactly what year I first saw this. It wasn't in the theater, and it was probably 1996, because that's when my lovely wife and I started dating in high school. And I think especially like that first year or two of dating was anytime we had the opportunity to, it's like, okay, here's one of my favorite movies. Okay, now you pick a movie that's one of your favorites. And we'd kind of do that, all back and forth. And this is one of her favorites. Like, and I did not realize.
I knew I liked Sharon.
I didn't realize even to what degree, because it's been a little while since we've watched it, and I had kind of forgotten to what degree she can quote this movie the same way I can do Star Wars. Like, it was as if I had Marisa Tomei sitting in the room with me, because she's sitting over there doing all the different scenes, all the different quotes, and not missing a beat. Like, she's over there, she's like, now... she starts in with the, where they're in the scene, and I'm sure we're going to be jumping around and quoting things, but we started in with the scene where when I told her we were going to be watching this movie, almost exactly from memory, she starts in with, imagine you're a deer. You're prancing along. You get thirsty. You spot a little brook. And she goes into that whole thing. And bam! Now I ask you.
You dip in the water.
Yeah.
You're going to ask yourself, what kind of pants is the guy who shot?
Would you give up what kind of pants who shot you was wearing? Yeah. So I definitely saw it probably the first year we started dating, because that was one of her. I want to say actually it might have been one of the first few movies we did see together, because I remember pretty early on she really liked the movie Benny with, why am I blanking? Johnny Depp, and then My Cousin Vinny was another one, and there were a whole bunch of them that were kind of some of those early 90s that had just come out not too long before we started dating. And so definitely first time I saw this would have been 96. And how does this movie make me feel? It's just so much fun. It's just, I just start smiling. As soon as I knew that this one was coming up, I just smiled. I was like, oh, good. We get to watch this one again.
What I love about that scene where she does the little speech with the deer thing is the way it's filmed. Is there's a second part set up to it. In other words, she starts off talking about the deer in the bed, and then she leaves the room.
Yeah.
You think it's over. And then he starts going about what he should wear.
Yeah.
Which means he's already moved on past your little speech. And then she just comes right back out with it like she's been stewing about it in the bathroom. And just when he brings up the pants, it's still just bothering that much that there's got to be part two.
And we've all had those conversations with our spouses before.
So I think that's the genius of that scene, is there's really monologue one or speech one, speech two.
Well, and we'll focus on that scene for a second, because this whole thing kind of starts off with when they're talking about how he's going to bond with the guy so he can get his files and everything else, and then it goes into what kind of starts it. He's like, "What am I going to wear?" She's like, "What are you going to hunt?" Like, it makes a difference what you're hunting for what you're going to be wearing. He's like, "I don't know. He got a lot of stuffed heads in his office." He's like, heads? He's like, well, what kind of heads? I don't know. He's got a boar, a bear, a couple of deer. Whoa, you're going to shoot a deer? I don't know. I suppose. I mean, I'm a man's man. I could go deer hunting. A sweet, innocent, harmless, leaf-eating, doe-eyed little deer.
Yeah. And that's what, and there's so many interactions where I mean, how do we say it? Do we say these characters aren't two-dimensional? Their relationship is so just fascinating to watch. It's so entertaining to watch because he's just like, I could use some support. I could, oh, really? Oh, well, you were wonderful. You were marvelous. And just the way she can say that. And, you know, it's funny because they definitely have like the East Coast Italian accent, but it's not dialed up to 11 to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, that's okay. This is getting to be a little bit much. But when it calls for it in the scene, and then all it does is just add to the humor, right? Oh, you were so wonderful. Oh, you were so amazing. Oh, what, you know, or like the very end. Oh, because you're too big of a man to say, well, look at this. Your first case, you're going to have to say, you know, thank you. You couldn't do it alone. So will you marry me? No, I don't want to marry some guy that can't take his case himself. Like she just flips it right around. It's just awesome. It's just awesome.
So we start off the movie. Movie starts off that Ralph Macchio and his friend are heading off to college, but they decide to take a little detour through Alabama, apparently, as you do.
You know, the southern route to L.A.
Right. The what was this? The Doc Hollywood route? Is that Los Angeles via a place no one would ever drive to go to Los Angeles? Yes. So they end up at this little convenience store, and they're stopping to get some groceries. They inadvertently, this will come back up in our 3 questions a little bit later, Ralph Macchio inadvertently ends up stealing something, and then they get pulled over later thinking it's because of the shoplifting, but there apparently had been a couple of guys in a very similar, if not identical car, had come to the convenience store right after them, shot the clerk, murdered the clerk, and then gotten away. And you kind of have the whole comedy of errors there when they get arrested, and they think they're being arrested for the shoplifting. So as they're confessing, quote unquote, to the shoplifting, like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. And the cops are like, oh, okay. Like, that was easy. If there had been a Staples button at that point, I feel like the cop would have just reached over and hit the Staples. But yeah, and so then you kind of get that, you kind of get when he's in there with the sheriff, and he's like, so you shot the clerk. I shot the clerk?
Yeah, he says it.
Like, okay, be very, very careful. Just a little PSA here, kids. If you ever get arrested for something, make sure that what you say cannot be used as a statement, even though you meant it as a question. Just be very, very careful. Because he keeps repeating it. He's like, I shot the clerk? I shot the clerk. And you know, of course, the stenographer that's sitting there, like, taking all the notes is just writing everything down exactly as he's saying. And so, oh, okay, we got our confession there. So then they get locked up, and their one phone call is to try to find a lawyer, and miracle of miracles, he has a lawyer in his family, and his lawyer is Vincent LaGuardia Gambini. And so, yes, he's an attorney, and probably according to his mother, he's very good. Well, we do know that he, you know, what was it? He took the bar 6 times?
6 times.
Yeah, took it 6 times. So 6 times is a charm. But it's just, I mean, from the moment those guys get arrested to all the stuff, the introduction of Vinny and Mona, and it's hilarious. And that one scene, and continuing the comedy of errors, that one scene when they're in the jail, and they've tried to talk to each other, like prepare each other for, okay, well, you know, when you're in jail, like there's bad stuff happens, so you just got to be real careful. And then of course Ralph Macchio's character falls asleep, and Vinny comes walking in, and Stan thinks that's like their new cellmate.
Classic.
Yeah.
We'll let him sleep.
We'll just let him sleep. We don't need to wake him up.
Look, you little punk, I'm doing you a favor.
Doing you a favor.
Yeah. Must have been fun writing that scene.
And I'll say there were 2 scenes in that movie that had that kind of comedy. The first you already referenced, where he gets arrested and he's talking about
can of tuna.
The sheriff's talking about shooting the guy. He's talking about the can of tuna.
Yeah.
And boy, I don't know, like I obviously not being a film writer and all that. And Dennis, I know that you study and actually take part in making films and all that. So I, you know, feel free to chime in if I'm off base, but you know, that would be really easy to become kind of like, oh man, that's just shtick that, okay, we're always cycling back. They're kind of recycling. Okay, we've done this before. The conversation where 2 of the characters are talking about 2 different things, but they only do it twice. And both scenes are incredibly effective. Mm-hmm. And I mean, not only the delivery, but the writing. I mean, it's just both of those scenes are just magnificent. Well, like you said, that one in the jail cell, You know, look, why don't you get down? What do you want me to get down on my knees?
You should be on your knees.
You should. That's right. That's right. I mean, it is very, very, yes, they are very funny.
And the thick New York accent makes it even better because he just sounds so mobbed up. Just, you should be on your knees. It's so funny.
Other than Leo Getz, has Joe Pesci done any other comedy at this point? Because this was kind of this and Leo Getz were my introductions to Joe Pesci. So the idea of Goodfellas and Raging Bull and all that came later. Like,
not a comedy though.
I mean,
what was that?
I said Goodfellas scene. What do you think? I'm funny?
Yeah,
funny like a clown.
Well, I mean, Pat, he did do one of your least favorite movies. He did do Home Alone before this.
Okay, he did Home Alone.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, look, and I mean, I don't, I'm not gonna give Home Alone a hard time. They were really terrible to that kid. I mean, anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
But that's right. He was in that one as well.
Yeah. And that would have been 2 years before this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah.
Yeah. So that probably would have been my introduction to Joe Pesci. Okay, cool. I'm just kind of a random musings.
I did not have an opportunity to go listen to it, and I'm not going to play it here because it looked like every song was marked with explicit lyrics. But apparently Joe Pesci put out an album from the persona of Vinny. So the album says that it's the performer is Vincent LaGuardia Gambini, and there's a whole bunch of songs in it, but every single one had the explicit lyrics. So I'm like, all right, I won't play that on the podcast, but
that could be pretty interesting.
I did not realize that he was singing.
Speaking of songs, jumping way ahead to the credits, the credits tune, was that written specifically? That was a fun tune, and it seemed to be written specifically for this movie too.
I think it was, yeah. I think that was one of those cool. Like along the lines of like the Addams Family song or the some of those others written for the movie.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So yeah, I think one of the other funny parts is when you get both Mona and you get Vinny, and it's the kind of fish out of water of them showing up in this small southern town, and they go and they try to get breakfast at the little diner. What do you want to have? Guess we'll have breakfast.
Yeah, but the way they study it, Mel, what do you think?
Yeah, and then the menu just got breakfast, lunch.
Yeah. And that's what I find fun about both those characters is that they're fish out of water, but they're very like self-aware.
Yeah.
They know they're fish out of water. And even when he's screwing up in the courtroom, he'll drop references to it. Got a judge that wants to throw me in jail. I got a dress code problem. I got a this, I got a that. Like they're not, well, clearly, I mean, there's different intelligences, but I mean, like they're not buffoons, right? We're not laughing.
Yeah.
We're not laughing. Well, we're kind of laughing. Well, no, I don't know. We're laughing at the situations they're in, but we're not laughing at them like they're buffoons. They're just like trying to figure it out. And that's the thing is they know they got to figure it out,
Yeah.
But see, it's ultimately like, it's still, I think, they don't come across like a couple, dumb stereotypes. It's like, it's pretty much what he said. It's kind of like it's that person who's not book smart, doesn't know all the technical rules of everything, but he knows how to win something. He knows how to get to the bottom of something. And and you see that a lot where there's people who might have the degree, who might have passed the bar, but they're horrible. Look at the other lawyer, that whole guy. Like, that's just a great thing because his friend thinks he's got this great lawyer now, and he thinks he's going to be in better shape than that. And he gets up there, and it's like, oh crap!
I want him.
Yeah. So I think him going up there, he always seemed to be smart. You never thought he was stupid, and everything he did with every witness from the beginning led to that. He never was really like inept, other than the way he approached things, sitting on the table, with the He told me to sit here, you know.
Yeah. He just didn't know the etiquette and protocol.
Yes, and that was it. But he was smarter than everybody else there, really. So
yeah.
Well, like that. Well, even not in the courtroom. When he's not in the courtroom, you still have like that scene where he goes up to what's the guy? JT is the guy's name. And I wanted to pull up the quote and make sure I got it right. I understand you played a game of pool with Lisa for $200, which she won. I'm here to collect. Well, how about if I just kick your butt? Oh, a counteroffer. Well, that's what we lawyers, I'm a lawyer, we lawyers call that a counteroffer. This is a tough decision here. Get my butt kicked or collect $200. Let me think. I could use a good butt kicking, but I'll be very honest with you. I think I'll just go with the $200 over my dead body. Oh, you like to renegotiate as you go along, don't you? Well, here's my counteroffer. And just like going through that whole thing of like, he's like, so if I kick the crap out of you, do I get the money? You kick the crap out of me? Yeah, you get the money. Okay, so here are my options. And he goes through the whole thing. And he's like, all right. He's like, so we're going to fight now? Yeah, but first show me the money. Oh, I have it. Oh, you have it? Then show it to me. Oh, I can get it. Oh, you can get it. Okay, get it. Then we'll fight. So, he's using that whole, again, he's not a dummy. He's using that whole kind of like lawyer.
He knows it's the 20 with the ones underneath. And the guy's like, oh, shit. And then finally he does it. And it's like quick, boom, boom, and it's over. And
it's like one punch.
2 hits, me hitting you, you hitting the floor.
Well, and
I think
some people might think the gags with the sleep, and I think that was classic. Those are all good too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
sleep, and he can't get sleep. And it's like he goes and
I'm gonna stay in jail. I might get some sleep.
Yeah. And then one guy's like, it's what do you say? It's unusual, like that it goes off at 5 a.m. He's like, and the next day, I thought you said it was unusual. That's almost a Marx Brothers type of.
It's usually here at 4:50.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you also see is there's a lot of just that quiet chauvinism too. Not necessarily with him, because it comes out with, well, sort of with him, but he just wants to do things on his own. He doesn't want anyone to help him, even though she knows what she's talking about. Like, she could help him study. She understands those books. She's the one that says, dude, he has to disclose that information to you. And it's the other characters that just treat her like, oh, you worked in the repair shop. What'd you do there? Like, you could just tell, like, the next part of that statement is, well, did you work in the office? Did you bring people coffee? I mean, that's the thing too, is that she is every bit as smart as he is. And just, I don't think he thinks down on her. I think he just doesn't like to ask directions. He doesn't like help.
He's the guy who's got to figure this out. And he needs her help only when he needs her help. But he doesn't like. It's very that comes across. My daughter had seen it with me earlier.
Yeah, what were their takes?
Her words were that Marisa Tomei's character carries the film. That's what she said, and then Hunter said that what's the phrase here? She's a smoke show.
Well, yes.
He made it clear that I say that make sure I let you guys know that.
Okay.
Smoke show. She's a smoke show. I had to look it up. I kind of knew what it was like smoking hot, but then I get like the thing. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
you have very, very smart kids.
But in the end, raising them well. But in the end, you really think about it, when she's even on the phone at the end and being ticked off at him, she's also saving his butt at the same time.
Right.
Because later on you find out that phone call was for the fax and the whole thing, and where he was.
You got a friend in the clerk's office?
Yeah. He's awesome in the court scene when she's just going off. Like, she's just spewing all the information out and just making everybody look stupid. She's talking about. He's just like, he sits on their thing and he's smiling and he's like just enjoying the show. Like, let her go.
I would love to hear about that.
Yes, his reaction.
So would I.
His reactions are so good. It's like classic. You knew he pushed her button of what she knows, and she's going, and he's like, I'll just sit back and enjoy this.
Yeah, and you can't answer it because you don't know. No, it's a trick question. Here's why. And then he's just like, okay. Yeah, he just is like the district attorney. He's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, yeah, I got nothing. And he's like, and then the judge, do you two know each other? yeah, this is my fiance. Well, that would explain the hostility. I'm just like, yeah. That's quite good.
Like, will you please answer the counselor's questions? No, I hate him.
Yeah. Good film, man. It was a good watch today.
Well, and it was you had like the other parts. It didn't treat. It could have gone the direction where you treat a lot of the Southerners as complete idiots too.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this movie did a good job of balancing it out so that the Southern characters didn't get treated like they were completely, backwards, uneducated. It was more of a, well, we're not dumb. Like, we just have a different way of life you don't necessarily understand. And there were moments, of course, where some of them were kind of a little cartoonish, like the older lady with the really thick glasses.
Yeah.
So you had some cartoonish characters. And what are these little things here called? Those are trees? Yeah, trees. And what are these things on the trees called? And what are these little bushy things called? Bushes? There you go. Good job. There's a couple of times, but
there's a scene, I think it's early on when they're in the police station or something, and his buddy, I forgot the other character's name is, he says something about them all being inbred, da-da-da-da, he goes off at right, and he looks at the police officer. It's like, so when you say there's the balance, it's like he called them out on the stereotype, but they defended and were offended by that stereotype. And then he corrects it by going, well, some of them are. Some of them are.
It's like the Klan is here. They're inbred. They sleep with their sisters.
Yeah. Well, some of them do.
Well, some of them do.
And they didn't argue that either. They're kind of like, I was like, all right, well, not all of them.
Okay.
That's kind of the balance that was struck.
Yeah.
And then the cop at the end. I mean, like, I think if you're going to go cheesy, you're going to make them villains. Mm-hmm. And I think if you're not cheesy, but if you're going to go like with the full stereotype, you're going to make, in the end, the lawyer's not a villain. The lawyer congratulates him. Yeah. In the end, the sheriff actually, in the pursuit of truth it's not hiding it. They're not like they're evil or anything.
No.
They were some simplistic in their thinking. And when you think about it, you can look at it in the perspective of saying, hey, we've got 3 eyewitnesses. And that's what we were talking about with this case. And I talked a little bit about it after without him. I go, well, in some ways it's, which is the more far-fetched stories. These 2 kids from out of town who went in there, and then they leave and people saw them leaving and driving away in this car. There's skid marks and it's their type of tires and it's the color car and 2 kids. Like you look at that and it looks like a slam shut case from that side. But then you flip it around and you say, well, why would these kids be buying all this stuff, pay for it, then rob the person? So there's like both holes in both stories. But at the same time, the Southerners aren't necessarily, while there's a quick rush to judgment, it's not grounded on something that's not, somewhat appearing to be solid. You have 3 eyewitnesses who said they saw him. They did admit to stuff in the beginning, even though they weren't admitting to it. So I think it works because it does have that nice balance. And then in the end, the sheriff and them is like, they get the true people. They look it up and they don't lie about it. So, from that
yeah, I agree.
The Southerners aren't treated as an enemy, I guess, which could have been make them so stupid and so set to be right that they hide things and that they don't seek the truth.
Yeah.
When they never really didn't do that throughout the entire film. You just had some witnesses who weren't clear on what they saw, but they thought they saw. And that was pretty much it. So it wasn't like there's no bad person in this. Mm-hmm. Other than the 2 guys who actually committed the murder. So,
but you don't even see them.
No.
Yeah.
And so I think it toes the balance pretty well. It toes the line on like using the humor of the South, but not doing it so over the top that it becomes ultimately offensive 100%. And you're also doing that with the Italian, kind of heritage as well and stereotypes, that it still lets him be wise and be a good lawyer in the end and not just be some foolish guy. So,
and it's not, the sheriff went to college,
mm-hmm.
right? He just didn't finish his classes because he's Daniel Simpson Day, has no grade point average, all courses incomplete.
I know.
So we know he went to school. He just didn't go to class.
Yeah.
Well, and I tell you, I liked it when he was running the con. Well, I go by my stage name, Gallo. Gallo's dead. Yeah. Of course Gallo's dead. That's why I'm talking to you. I said Gallo. It's just like, and I don't, man, if you've ever known, like, I've never like known like con man before, but if you ever know
far as you
people that
know.
have run, as far as I know, but I mean, I've known some friends that have run some scams over teachers getting homework and like you watch them work, and man, they're good. And it's like that kind of thing. Like they can just keep talking, and if they run into a wall, well, they go lateral, right? They just go lateral and they keep it going. They keep they just keep the play alive.
In this case,
As long as the ball's in the air, the play's not over.
Yeah.
You got 90 in this case.
So we've been quoting a whole bunch of stuff, but I am going to ask this before we get into our 3 questions here in a second. Do you have a favorite scene or a favorite quote from this movie?
I'm gonna start off with a dark cloud, and then I'm gonna get out of the way. The one thing that I struggled with in this movie, especially watching that, was that they made the public defender have a stutter.
Okay.
And and I'm just like, for me, that's just, you talk about open and shut case. Like I can't get behind that personally. I'm just going on the record as saying that, because I mean, it's just like, I mean, that is such a struggle and something that should not be a punchline. And I was disappointed rewatching this, because it's just like, okay, and then it's explained away like, oh, I was just really nervous. And it's like, yeah, these guys are pretty creative writers. I mean, we don't need to be talking about, special need and making that the joke, making that the punchline. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
could have been another way to show that.
It could have been another way to show it, and you don't even need to make it like a stutter that you could have shown what you wanted, that guy really wasn't as strong as you wanted without it being that. And I thought it was, I thought that was below where the movie could be. So
just replace it with an uncomfortable amount of sweating.
A comfortable amount of sweating. You could, I mean, heck, I'm not a writer, and I've got, just give me 5 minutes, I'll brainstorm ideas of how that could have gone. And like, the guy didn't even reappear in the movie. Like, he was in there for like one scene where he was speaking, right?
Yeah.
To be honest, like, did you even need him in the movie? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, so anyways, I don't want to take up too much precious time. There was too much good about the movie.
Just a little bit of the background on that whole thing too, by the way. Number one, I do remember a protest being back then during the Academy Awards, because she had won and the movie was like obviously up for like her winning the Academy Award. So there were protests by stutterers and things like that. I do remember that happening back then. But I also, an interesting side note is, and again, I don't know if this falls into that, and I know obviously for you, Pat, it does not. It doesn't fall into the Farrelly brothers thing about like kind of no things off limit. I think it's, they actually discussed that, and the actual actor who portrays that, Pendleton, actor Austin Pendleton, is a real life stutterer.
Mm-hmm.
So he was cast by his friend Jonathan Lynn as a tongue-tied public defender. Lynn told Abnormal Use that even though he knew Pendleton would be hilarious in the scene, he wasn't expecting it to be that funny. Apparently he had to hide behind the camera because he couldn't stop himself from laughing. So I think that what it was what Mitch Whitfield also found his scenes of Pendleton hilarious. Again, maybe not thinking how the greater public goes, but where I think it made it in was because the director knows this guy. He's friends with him. They are obviously in the ability to laugh about his stutter as whatever friends, and that they both find it, whatever. So therefore it was easier to cross that line than, hey, let's just cast this guy as the stutter. He was like, I mean, that's what they're doing, but it was under the, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a little bit of the cloudedness of the friendship and the fact that to them, it's something they can both joke about.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that you and everyone else out there can joke about it. So I guess you err on the side of caution, which they didn't do here. But at the same time, to them, he's a stutter and he's not offended by it. He thought it was hilarious. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
Like two brothers poking fun at each other, that works. But if you start poking the same fun of somebody at school who you don't know, which again, audience members are going to be people you don't know, is it something you should do? And I think that brings up your point or question. Yeah, that there are people who are offended by it, obviously.
Yeah, and it wasn't like he didn't have, like I said, the stutter was the joke, right?
It was, and he knew that. That's the only reason he was cast in that scene. He plays a very short time.
The last thing that my professor in college would tell us, our band, before we would go on stage, is just remember, guys, when we go out there, no inside jokes. The audience doesn't get them, they'll fall flat. No inside jokes when you're on stage. Make sure the audience is in on the joke. And I get it. I mean, and that's great that they were friends, and I'm glad that the actor didn't feel that. But I mean, I just watch that now and I'm just like, yeah, I don't, yeah. So anyways, like I said, I don't want to make it a whole dark cloud because I sincerely loved so much about this movie. As far as Academy Awards, I mean, yeah, I don't even know what this thing was like nominated for, or what it won for, but I'm glad it was in there because I just thought it was a magnificent movie. But that was one thing that I bumped up against and just couldn't quite get past.
Marisa Tomei won for Best Supporting Actor or Actress.
Yeah. Actress, yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, because I want to find out what some of your other favorite scenes are. I was reading up on the IMDb trivia stuff. Pat, you're going to appreciate this because you and I did the Razzies episode not too long ago. Apparently, originally, this movie was written for Andrew Dice Clay to be the lead actor in the movie. Okay, those people listening at home could not see Pat's face. It kind of looked like Pat just tried to devour an entire lemon. Yeah, so after Dice Rules did not do well, and the movie The Adventures of Ford Fairlane did not do well, then they decided, nope, not going to have him star in My Cousin Vinny. So apparently they dropped it, and then he was no longer, they cut ties with him, severed their relationship, and said, all right, bye-bye. And so apparently he was the original, they intended for him to be Vinny in this movie. And thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's a different movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought Joe Pesci was amazing.
Yeah. I can't see anybody else. I mean, I'm sure you could have somebody else play Vinny in this movie, but why? All right. Before we jump into 3 questions, favorite scene? Is there anyone you could kind of nail down as a favorite scene? Or
Mine's more a quote, but it's the one that comes up more often in my life. These 2 Utes.
Yeah.
What's a Ute?
Excuse me. What was that word? Utes. Did you say Utes? Yeah, Utes. What's a Ute?
The 2 youths. Yeah, that exchange there. I think that takes all of that fish out of water stuff and all the stuff that happens between he and the judge and kind of encapsulates it in that one scene between the two of them, you know? Mm-hmm. Just that moment there. It's all there.
There's so many of those quotes that, like, because Sharon knows this movie so well, there are so many of these quotes that kind of get used fairly regularly if we're talking about some different stuff.
Well, and you do have 2 Utes.
Well, that's true. We do have 2 Utes in the house too. But I mean, I remember one time we were at one of the art stores, and I think Nora was picking some stuff out, and she wanted to get a bunch of different colored pencils, but then she also wanted to get a blender, like the blender pencil. And somehow we ended up using the line, "Oh yeah, you blend." You know, somehow as she was trying to.
You blend.
Well, at least I got the cowboy boots on. Oh yeah, you blend. So I kind of have a hard time narrowing it down because there's so many of her lines that gets used pretty regularly. Oh, it's a fact. I'd have to say, okay, so I will narrow it down to the entire scene of her explaining everything about the car.
Oh.
You know, from the moment that it starts with, you can't answer the question.
Positive traction.
Nobody could answer that question.
Yeah.
From about that moment on, that whole scene.
Yeah. Yeah, that scene's just amazing.
The defense is wrong.
Yeah. How can you possibly know it's this car? And then she goes through the whole thing, and then it's just like there were only 2 cars that were made with positive traction. One was a Corvette, but it's just great.
Yeah.
I like the scene with the drip with the faucet. He's like, you know, and then Joe Pesci keeps looking over there, and he's like, you know, and I think there was pretty darn good chemistry between them because the way that scene progressed.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? I thought, and it was just it was just very subtle. It was just very subtle. Like it was two fantastic actors just doing a fantastic scene. I mean, but yeah, it was just like, maybe you need to twist it, because I used it. It's just, that was a very good scene.
Maybe you didn't twist it hard enough. I twisted it just right. How could you be so sure? If you look at the manual, you'll see this particular model faucet requires a range of 10 to 16 foot-pounds of torque. I routinely twist the maximum allowable torquage.
I'm going to go with the opening statement I like, too. Everything the guy just said is bull. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the follow-up.
Objection.
That's good enough as it is. Objection. Yeah, that's counsel's entire opening statement is argumentative and he's sustained. Counselor's entire opening statement, with the exception of thank you, will be straightened from the record. Okay, yeah. And then I would say the deer scene, but we already discussed that. That would be one up there.
How about when he's sleeping and all of a sudden I think it's the owl or something makes the noise and he runs out. Kabang, 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 kabang.
I believe that was a real owl. Where did I see that somewhere? Hold on.
Yeah, I think it was.
That's the quote. The quote from the director is, "We got real lucky with that screech owl."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the little under the breath things. I don't like your attitude. So what else is new?
Yeah, I know.
Now there's an effing surprise. What did you say? What did you say?
What did I say? What did I say?
Yeah. The scam he's running on his name. That's good. Herman Munster as the judge was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Gambini, the next words out of your mouth better be guilty or not guilty. I don't want to hear commentary, argument, or opinion. I don't want to hear any facts or evidence. If I hear anything other than guilty or not guilty, you'll be in contempt. I don't even want to hear you clear your throat to speak. Now, how do your clients plead?
I think I understand. I don't think you do. Yeah.
I love the part when he walks all the way back and he's holding up the fingers, and he's like, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And then the judge, "Let the record show the counselor is holding up 2 fingers."
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
But I thought that was really good because it kind of brought the judge. Oh, the judge kind of blew it, right? I mean, I thought that was.
Oh yeah, he blew. Yeah.
Well, because one of his next lines is, "Now, Mrs. Riley, and only Mrs. Riley," and just like the look they give each other.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I was, and when you think about that, how did the judge screw up? He screwed up because he was sticking to procedure. Because down here, we follow procedure, and and he was following procedure. And what did that cause him to do? He let the cat out of the bag with the thing. I thought that was just a real creative bit of writing.
The one I'm going to start using with my children is also from the judge. Mr. Gambini. Yes, sir. That is a lucid, intelligent, well thought out objection. Well, thank you, Your Honor. Overruled.
Overruled.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time for 3 questions.
Yes.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. And I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, 3 questions for my cousin Vinny. And you can answer the questions. None of them are trick questions. That's a fact. Number 1, have you ever unintentionally or intentionally stolen something or been accused of stealing something?
I couldn't tell you what, but I know for a fact I've walked out to the car and been like, oh, crap. That was in my pocket the whole time.
And then you went back in and the clerk was dead.
Yeah, that happened.
That was super awkward.
Yeah, like little things, like, you pick up a candy bar or something, and you put it in your pocket, and you're going to forget to put it out on the thing. Or, I know I've done this. I had, like, something on the bottom of the shopping cart, like an orange juice or something, and you forget it's there, and you get out to your car, you're like, oh. Yeah.
Right. So I had something similar like that when I was little. My dad would give me, like $5, whatever, go down to the store, pick up the Sunday newspaper. So on Sunday morning, I would walk down to this store called Miller's, a little grocery store in the neighborhood. And I think I was probably about 8, 9, 10 years old, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't even know. So I'd get the paper and I'd have a little extra money left over because you always give me a little bit. So I would buy something. And you're walking around with this big Sunday paper, which back then they're a lot bigger than they were today. They were like, for a kid too, they're pretty heavy. But so I had the paper, I had everything else. I would put it kind of like under my arms, like under my armpit, kind of like a walk around the store, pick out other stuff, and then put that other stuff in my arm with the paper. Well, I used to get the flavor ice, the popsicles, the flavor ice, and they're pretty thin. Well, one of them apparently slid into the paper that I did not know about. So I had walked out, and all of a sudden it fell in the concrete as I moved the paper later when on my way home. I was like, oh my God. And we're talking, I think, 20 cents, 30 cents, so they weren't ridiculous amount. They might have been 50 cents. I don't even know for one of the flavor ice because they're the bigger ones. But anyway, at that point, I was like, what do I do? Do I go back? Am I going to get in trouble? And I thought, and in the back of my mind, I was like, I just felt really horrible. But then apparently I didn't feel so horrible enough that one other time, probably within the next year, I went down there and I would go and buy with the extra money other stuff for my brothers. So I wasn't entirely bad in this case, but I would buy stuff for my brothers and as well, so that they all had a flavor ice. And I had 4 brothers, so it was a lot, plus my dad, plus my mom. So, like, I'll try and get enough for everybody. I was a little bit short. I remember thinking, do you remember when that paper went in there? Went in that paper? I remember thinking, I'm one short and I don't have enough money for it. And I stuck it in the paper again. But this time when the guy was taking the paper, it fell out on the counter and he got me busted. I got busted for trying to sneak one in there. Worst feeling in the world. Never again could I even look or think, because I was thinking, well, I was doing it for good to give it to some. I was like Robin Hood, I was stealing from this rich store. I mean, I wasn't really it was a kid, 8 or 9 year old, thinking it's 30 cents or 40 cents, and I didn't have enough money for it, and blah, blah. And I remember him looking, he goes, I know your parents, if they knew, da, 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 da. And I just felt like the worst. Oh my God, it was horrible.
You tried to,
like, I will never steal anything in my life again, even though I was thinking this one time, if I could just, last time it was an accident. So it's kind of like the same thing, you're rationalizing it in your head as an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, so that actually happened to me by accident, then happened to be intentionally. So, or I did something intentionally that was wrong, and learned a valuable lesson.
Which that maneuver, I believe, is called the reverse Uncle Billy, where you steal something by putting it in a newspaper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pat?
Well, I mean, aside from, the occasionally you get out and you look at your receipt and you realize, oh man, they didn't charge me for this, that, or the other thing. And, you got to fix that. Like the only time, and this might sound a little bit off the question. I was in college and our cafeteria, and I still to this day don't understand this, but they didn't let you take food out of the cafeteria, right? There were all these signs that said, all food must be consumed before leaving this, I see you guys nodding, so I guess this is rare. I'm sure there's a logic behind it. I still don't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like
you could take at ours, you could take out fruit. That was it. You could take like a banana or an apple, and everything else had to stay.
And I don't get that. I'm sure there's a reason. Yeah. I'm sure maybe they just don't want the mess in the hall. Maybe it's that simple, whatever. So, and I knew that there were people, because there was some food was all you can eat, right? And then some food was you paid. And I knew there were guys that were my friends that, they'd come in, sneak in through the whatever door, and then just go back up into the line to the all you can eat section and, lift food that way. And I never did that stuff. But I remember I was signed up and I was going to practice trumpet with my professor this one morning. And my trumpet professor, was also our jazz studies director and everything. And he was a mentor, still is a mentor in many ways. And it was funny because I was meeting him for trumpet practice early. We usually meet about 7:00 to practice trumpet. And so I'm getting food early and I'm like late. I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to run. And so I think I grabbed, I don't know, whatever the heck was on the plate. I put the tray in the captive thing, but I ran out in the hall as I was eating, running across campus to get to the Fine Arts building to practice. And I was sitting down to practice by trumpet instructor, and we were set up on one of the stages in one of the auditoriums or wherever we're playing away. And, oh, how'd it go? Yeah, good. And I said, yeah, I said, I got a little bit late this morning, or did you get breakfast? And I said, yeah, I grabbed something. And I said, I had to grab it from the cafeteria and run. And how did I phrase it? I said, I took something from the cafeteria. Oh, I said, they don't like it when you take food from the cafeteria and eat it or whatever. And I described it to him, but the way I said it, he looks over at me and goes, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, Pat Canigallo. That's not right. And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, man, what is up with this campus? They're really serious about this. Don't take food out of the cafeteria. I said, I know there's all this time about not taking the food out of the cafeteria, but I said, I didn't spill anything. Like, I don't get what the big deal was. I said it, and I looked at him. I said, it really wasn't a lot. It was like a sandwich or something like that. And he goes, it doesn't matter if it was a sandwich or it doesn't matter if it was an entire meal. It's wrong. And I'm just like, oh, dang, like, okay. And I go back to playing trumpet, but then here's this guy that, is like your mentor, holds it, and this whole thing. And boy, he's disappointed, and it's playing in my mind. We play along. And all of a sudden it hit me the way I phrased it. He thinks that I stole the food out of the cafeteria. And I said, hang on a second. I said, I'm really sorry to break up, the lesson, but can we cycle back to that conversation? I said, I just want to explain. And he gives me this look of like utter judgment of like, okay, go ahead and try and talk your way out of this one, buddy. Because he was always the one that was telling us, hey guys, just remember, it's hard to explain your way out of what you behaved your way into. So I'm just like this, and he's got this look of judgment. I said, I think I misspoke before. Everything that I ate this morning was on my tray that I walked through. The cashier saw, I paid for it, all the money. Like there was nothing. I didn't steal anything. And he goes, uh-huh. I said, when I said I took food out of the cafeteria, I mean, I set my tray down and picked up the food that I already paid for. I want to reiterate that. Money was, and then he was like, oh, okay. Well, that's better then. And we went back to playing trumpet. And but the guilt of it was so bad because when I'd said, oh, I took food from the cafeteria, that's not right. And I'm like, it was almost like the thing in the movie where there was like the parallel conversation kind of thing. So anyways, that's about the closest that I can come. I know it's not like some great, the Italian Job kind of like robbery story, but that's the closest I've been of being accused of stealing something, and it didn't feel good. So I was glad that he took my word for it that that's not what I meant.
Let's see. For mine, as far as I know, I haven't stolen anything. I mean, it could be something unintentional, like, Bo, you were saying you accidentally leave something in the cart and it doesn't get rang up or something like that. The one time I was accused of stealing something was, I believe the year was 1999, and we were headed to the Student Journalism Conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Bo is already laughing because he's probably heard this story many times.
The faded journalism and yearbook conferences of 98, 99. There's some deep stories in these bad boys.
Yeah. Yeah. And my significant other is still with me.
Well, wonders never cease.
So that's a testament to her patience. But so we were on our way. We had left Chicago and we had a layover in Denver, which then our next flight was going to be to Albuquerque. Just like Bugs Bunny, took a left at Albuquerque. But we were in the Denver airport. We had a little bit of a layover. So we were out, it's a bunch of high school kids, and we were walking around. We went to one of the little newsstand places that sells the magazines and pack of gum and stuff like that. And at that point in time, because for some reason, I thought it was super cool, the watch that I had at that point in time was a pocket watch, because I thought pocket watches were cool. So pocket watch, of course, you have it, clipped to one of your belt loops on your pants, and then pocket watch goes in the pocket. And so I knew it was kind of close to time when we needed to go get to our flight. So I'm in there with a couple of friends, and we're in the newsstand. We're looking at some magazines and books and whatever. And I pull the pocket watch out of my pocket. I take a look at what time it is, and I put it back in my pocket. Well, the clerk who was running this newsstand, I think, thought that I had taken something from one of their shelves, put it in my pocket, and that I was stealing something. So he stops me, won't let me leave the store, and then he calls security, won't let me leave until security comes. In the meantime, my other friends are there. They're like, hey, I think our flight is boarding. Like, we got to go. And I'm like, I would love to go, but these guys are not letting me leave. So security shows up, and this guy's accusing me of having stolen something, and I keep asking, well, what did I steal? He's like, I don't know. I saw you put something in your pocket. And I emptied my pockets. I'm like, I have a little bit of change here. I have a pocket watch, and that's what I've got. And here's my wallet, too. Like, I have nothing. I said, this is the change I had. This is the wallet I had. Did I take money from you? He's like, no, but you put something from the store in your pocket. I was like, it's a pocket watch. And I pulled out the rest of my pockets. I'm like, do you sell pocket watches here? And he's like, no, we don't sell pocket watches, but you put something else in there. I'm like, it's nowhere else. I have nothing else here. No other place I could have hidden this. It's a pocket watch. And so I very, very close to, not getting in during the time our plane was supposed to be boarding. All my friends had abandoned me. They're like, okay, well, we got to go. Hopefully you can make it. But so I almost got detained by airport security at the Denver airport for stealing my own pocket watch.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah. A little bit like if anybody remembers or wants to go back to last week's episode where Pat was talking about his run-in with the police, it's a little bit like that story, but you can go back and listen to that episode for that one. Question number 2, favorite model of classic car, which I'm going to go ahead and apologize because apparently I caused a bit of an issue with this question. I knew that this would take up some time and brain power especially from Pat and Bo. So I do apologize. I tried to send this question a little bit later in the day so it wouldn't consume every waking hour, but.
And I just want to, cycling back to your last comment, just that whole thing with I just want to say, the issue was I was walking on a public path. Okay. That was the only thing that I needed clarification was the path around Lake Geneva was public. And I just, there seemed to be some discrepancy about that. Mm-hmm. Dennis can back me up on that one.
Yep.
For those that cannot see Dennis's face, it was as deadpan as it gets.
Dennis just pulled the Forrest Gump version. That's all I have to say about that.
All I have to say about that.
Lips firmly pursed. Dennis agrees.
All right, kids. So anytime you have a run-in with the law, just make sure you know exactly which path you're allowed to walk on.
And if the store sells pocket watches.
Correct.
Well, it's funny because there's that story too. I was thinking about like when they were in this. There's a couple things that would remind me about that the movie. I was going to say earlier with the snacks. Oh, yeah. When we had ever stole anything, I'm like, no, he doesn't have to. He has somebody else go into the store and buy this for him.
That's right. I stole from you.
It was like that. Ralph Macchio was me at the thing. We pulled. There's this for people out there who work with us. They know the story of going to a cross country thing, and on the way back, Pat falling asleep at the wheel, driving a stick shift, which I cannot drive. I'm worried we're gonna die. He's doing push-ups, rolling down the window, smacking himself in the face, whatever, trying to stay up. And we got another hour and a half to get home. So then Pat all of a sudden says, hey, you hungry? And I'm like, no, I'm good. And he's like, well, I think I'm going to have to stop and get something. I'm going to stop. Yeah, I need something. Wake me up. And we go in there. I go to the bathroom. He goes to the bathroom. I'm walking around like Ralph Macchio. I have my arms full of so I didn't want to buy anything, but you stop off at the gas station, you start buying snacks. So I have this whole bunch of snacks. I didn't realize we get back in the car and Pat's like, yeah, I didn't find anything. I didn't find anything. So then we're driving along and Pat's like, you gonna eat that? And he proceeded pretty much to eat all my snacks.
They were the yogurt covered raisins. They were really good.
I had like a variety. I almost had everything but the can of tuna. And and it was just like one of those things of as I started to realize like this was genius by Pat. He basically says, let's stop. Are you hungry? I say no. He says, well, I am. Let's stop. He goes in, doesn't buy anything. Like an idiot, I just have to buy something when I'm there. And then he proceeds to eat my food for free. Like, that's great. And then, now we're at the story with the rest there. Yeah, that's...
So in this story, is Pat your girlfriend eating your French fries?
What I made is I made him a counter offer. Okay. Let's see. I could stop for snacks. or I could eat your snacks. Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking the offer was more like I could fall asleep and we could die, or I could eat your snacks.
You know, in all fairness, we slowed down when I fell asleep. So we probably wouldn't have died. It's when I woke up that suddenly we'd start going faster.
I'm sure the transmission loved that.
80, 60, 80, 60, 80, 60. He's doing push-ups on the wheel.
All right. Remind me never to carpool with Pat.
How about it?
Mm-hmm.
You gonna go? That we need. That's got to be our 400th episode. Is all the cross-country stories.
Yeah.
The trips to state.
Normal Illinois. Nothing happens in normal. That would be. There's the smoothie story, running around chasing a car.
We heard that one too.
We heard about that one.
That's a classic. Yeah.
Hey, you better give him the smoothie. No, his buddy's leaving. He came out. Tony's like, what's he doing? He's waving. He's saying we could go. Are you sure? He's saying, yeah. I'm saying, hold on. Okay.
Two smoothies in my hand. I'm running like this.
You're running down the middle of the highway chasing us.
Anybody who saw that, just the ladies there are telling that story, you know, probably on a podcast in there.
Because I took off out of that parking spot, probably like they did in the movie. I think I laid some rubber leaving them.
And I'm like, son of a. And she's like, hey, your friend's taking off. And I remember the lady still blending. I'm like, I think it's done.
I think she was blending that thing for like 10 minutes.
Blending for like 10 minutes. And I'm like looking back, telling you, like, it's okay. It'll be a minute. Just wait. You're like turning the car around.
I backed in.
You turned around and backed it in, like, so you can save that 10 seconds getting out. And the lady's got the blender still going. I'm just like, it's like, okay, how long is that blender going to go? I'm like, I think it's done. It's good enough. It's blended good enough. That's what I told her.
So, Pat, if you had a favorite model classic car that you were going to fall asleep in while driving, which one would it be?
All right. John, this question, unfair, my friend.
I know.
You know, so many things flash to mind. The Lamborghini Miura. I mean, you know, and both thoughts went to 69 Charger, Mustang Fastback. Going through the whole list, I got to be completely honest with you. I have always been a fan of like the street rod style of cars. Like, if people wonder what that looks like, think the John Milner car in American Graffiti. I've always been partial to that. And it's, you know, because they're custom, there's no one that has caught my eye. But I'll tell you, any of those like 30s model Fords, I tend to like the coupes. But my thing is, I really like it when the motor's exposed, no fenders or running boards or anything along the side, so the tires stick out. It's like open wheel, the motor totally exposed, headers along the side. And I don't know, there's a couple different versions of them out there. I really like the Model A's. You know, the Deuce coupes are cool looking cars. And I've always been a little bit partial to the rat rods. I just think that would be the coolest thing ever. So even like the Model T, the T-Bucket Roadsters, any of that's really cool. So to kind of narrow it down, that's going to be a little bit rough. But I've always been partial to that street rod style. And like I said, something pretty close to, you know, if you're not familiar with it, think of American Graffiti, John Milner's, I think it was a Deuce Coupe. I think it was a 32.
Yep, 32 Deuce Coupe.
32 Deuce Coupe. And like I said, I like that style. I like the exposed motor. I like the coupe. I like the exposed tires, exposed wheels. The only thing that I'd play around with was maybe making it more of like a rat rod, but I don't know. But that would have to be it from classic car.
Bo, what about you?
Well, my big struggle with this was, you know, what was classic? Are we talking classic muscle? Are we talking classic look? Are we talking like what was the So in true 30-something podcast fashion, I couldn't do just one. I went with two.
Okay.
Because I had one for classic look and one for classic power. My power car is the 70, could be the 69, could be the 70 Charger, depending on what your frame of reference is. The top two that popped into my head are Dom Toretto's from the original Fast and the Furious, or even the Ghost Rider version of the Charger. For power, you can't beat that sound, and that look just looks mean and powerful. But then when you're talking like classic look, style, luxury, even the Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith. It was a post-World War II model, I believe, and I didn't get a chance to confirm it, but I'm pretty sure that's the one that's in the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade when they exchanged for the tanks. I believe it's a Silver Wraith. It is just a beautiful, beautiful vehicle, and it's just, the styling of it is so cool. So there's my two, because I couldn't do just one.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm going two as well. And it would be the 69 Chevy Impala if I could have that in mint condition, because it was my first car ever. And the 72 Monte Carlo SS is what I think I finally would go with for the second one. Both of those, if I get those cars back in like mint condition and drive those now, that would be pretty sweet.
Those would be outstanding. So cool.
Mine for this one, I immediately go to the 33 Ford Coupe, the ZZ Top car. Like I've always, if I could have a classic car, that would be the one to have. I remember when we were living in Missouri, we had an opportunity at one point. My dad was going to buy it was a mid-50s Ford truck. We were going to, it was already red, but it needed to be repainted. But we were going to buy it. We were going to kind of fix it up. And that was going to be, I mean, the idea was if we had continued to live in Missouri, he wanted to buy that because I think I was about, 14 at the time. And he's like, we'll buy that. We'll fix it up. That'll be your car, when you're old enough to drive. And I think we were really, really close to getting it. And the guy that he was going to buy it from just would not meet the price my dad wanted to pay for it. So like we were that close to having that. Otherwise, some of my runners up would be, I would just like to have, I'm not a car guy, so I, usually the car stuff doesn't make that much of a difference to me. I would probably go for cars that look like cars from movies or TV shows that I loved. So I'd say, and some of these are, I think we clarified and said that we were going to talk about classic car being something from 1975 or older. So neither of my runner-ups work. My other one was going to be the Firebird that they used for Kit in Knight Rider and the DeLorean. But those are both 80s, so that doesn't quite work for the classic car criteria that we had. But no, 33 Ford Coupe would be the one I'd go with.
You have to grow a long beard to drive that, though.
I can do that. That's fine. Yeah. I'll do that. And then number 3, favorite item of clothing. So, Vinny wore this stupid thing for you, Judge. What stupid thing are you going to wear because it's your favorite item of clothing? I'm going to go in true, as Bo said, in true 30 podcast fashion. I'm going to list one item of clothing I don't have anymore. Actually, I have a new Pac-Man shirt that I'm wearing tonight, but I used to have a Pac-Man shirt that was my dad's, and it eventually disintegrated because it was probably about 30 or 40 years old. And I have pictures of when I was a baby. We had one that was baby-sized that I wore, and my dad had the matching shirt that he would wear, and I had his shirt up until I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and the thing finally just fell apart. So it had softened over the years to the point where it was the most comfortable thing ever. So that, and then I've also got a fleece sweater, like a dark gray fleece sweater that I bought when we went to England in the late 90s. I think it was late 90s. I went to England, I bought it there, and I have had this thing ever since then. And it is still in halfway decent condition, and it is the most comfortable thing. So I go completely for comfort. If you had asked me when I was 14, I would have said my leather jacket that I bought in Germany. But that's when I thought I wanted to be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
When you stop deciding you don't want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger anymore?
Because he works out.
Ah, okay. Fair.
I've given up on the Hulk Hogan. What was it? The 24-inch pythons.
Yeah.
That Hulk Hogan has. I'd be fine with like 24 millimeters. It's my 24 millimeter garden snakes.
All right.
Anybody else have a favorite item of clothing?
I don't know that I've owned anything long enough to have an attachment to it like that, but most of that has to do with my increasing width than anything. But I suppose there's an Aloha shirt that I have that is like that. Okay, it is vacation. I am in shorts or swim trunks, and I just throw that shirt on, and it doesn't have any pockets, so I don't have any phones. Like, it is just vacation. So maybe if I have one, it's that.
I mean, I'm not really, this is not a good question for me. Anybody knows how I dress. There's nothing really.
You do like that box and burn shirt. It's
That's what my answer was going to be.
I'm sorry, man.
You're good. That's good that you actually bring that up, because that's what my kids would say too. They're like, man, you always wear that shirt. There's a box and burn 3/4 baseball style shirt. It's got the gray here and the blue sleeves. I had one like that some years ago too. It wasn't a box and burn. It was just a 3/4 base. I think it was a White Sox shirt. And then there's a Fornarelli's t-shirt. Fornarelli's boxing gym from Windy City back in the day. It had like two guys like drawn and punching, and in a boxing kind of Rocky sort of pose, but it wasn't so cheesy or anything. But I mean, I guess that's really, when you say like a little bit of what John says, comfort, I find a pair of jeans that fit, and they're comfort, because being 6'3", if I go to we're just talking about this with Matt Paul now, we're both about the same height, and it's like, you go to one place and it's too short. You go to another place, it's too wide because you can't go big and tall. We're in the worst size. It's like if I was 2 inches shorter, or if I was bigger, whatever, that would work. But like we're just kind of in that lost size. So when I find a t-shirt or a shirt that I like that just kind of fits comfortably and fits as best it can, I wear that thing into the ground, so you'll see me wearing it a lot and often, and just keep washing it and just keep wearing it and just keep washing it and wearing it. And the regular guy look.
Yeah. It's funny because on my clothes now, it's like if I found a shirt that works, I've got like 12 of that shirt.
Yes. And
that's a pair.
Yeah.
Here's
every color it comes in, and then you don't have to think about it.
Even if it's the same color.
I've got 12,
less need to do long.
Pat, are you that guy in the commercial where it's like, being worried that you're becoming your parents? And they have the guy that's like, so where have we seen this shirt before? And he's holding up the same shirt he's currently wearing. and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get it anyway.
You know what? If Tammy wasn't sleeping and this would be creepy, I'd take you up to the bedroom right now and show you my closet, because I've got like 12 to 13 black button-down collared shirts and 12 to 13 pairs of khaki. Here you go, Dennis. Slacks, 4 pairs of which are cargo pants. And that, I don't think. It's just,
and the funniest thing about this is that when I was doing the digital communications class, I was teaching classroom and not PE. Me and Pat, without having to really plan too much, very often we're doing twin day. Shirt, or I'd have the white. Sometimes I had a white shirt. You had a white shirt. Sometimes we have either a button-down shirt, and then we'd have the khaki pants. And that's what we do. It was kind of our thing. We'd walk in, hey, you can wear that. We look at it, it's like you're wearing it. Kids would be like, are you brothers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Half brothers.
No.
And then during the summer, it's cargo pants, cargo shorts, and black T-shirt.
Yeah. So I'm definitely not like into the whole fashion thing or anything. That's not my thing. It's like whatever. Has anybody seen? You guys watch Curb Your Enthusiasm? Or no? Have I asked this before, Larry David?
I don't.
So if you ever
I've heard I would love it. I've just never.
Vaughn's now on there is Funkhauser's kid, because Funkhauser was the Super Dave Osborne guy who passed away. But anyway, so he's on there, and there's a whole episode about a shirt. So there's a good thing where he borrows a shirt because the button down working, he's going on a date, and he borrows one of Vince Vaughn's shirts, and then it gets ruined. It's this whole thing about a two-tone shirt. It's just a really good, funny thing about you give your best friend your best shirt, and it's a good shirt one about some Hollywood guys about their shirt. Yeah, it's a good episode.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of. So we've given you some fashion advice. We've given you some, if you're out in the market for a classic car, we've given you some ideas here. We've also given you some ideas on how to steal stuff if you really, really want to. I think most of all, we've learned that Marisa Tomei is just the best. I mean, I knew I'd get Pat's agreement on that, so I figured that was a pretty safe statement. It's a fact. A smoke show, according to your son? Yeah, okay. She's a smoke show. Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one. That's not
just a bunch of olds saying that either.
No. So that's going to do it for this one. The website that you can go head over to is 30podcast.com. That's got all of our previous episodes and other good stuff for you to check out over there. Our next episode's coming up. This month, we've got To Kill a Mockingbird is our Patreon episode. So if you are a Patreon member, you can go check out that one. Passenger 57 is going to be the last episode for this month's theme of crime and punishment. Then in February, we've got Women in Film, and we've got our Patreon is Favorite Movies with Female Leads. We're doing A League of Their Own then, Basic Instinct, Single White Female, Sister Act, and Jennifer 8. And then in the month of March, we have got Far and Away. And then about that time, we'll be hitting our 400th episode, so we're going to redo our first ever episode with the lost audio. We did Gremlins, Ghostbusters, and Nightmare on Elm Street. That'll be our 400th episode. And then we've also got Last of the Mohicans, Scent of a Woman, and The Bodyguard. Plenty of good stuff coming up over the next few months. Gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Yes, great.
All right, everybody, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we'll see you back here next time.